Welcome, welcome, welcome. Gonna give you a moment to come in. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host tonight, Shantae Charles. I hope that you're having a great and wonderful day. As promised, we are broadcasting on YouTube as well, and we're also doing it through our podcast. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, I suggest that you subscribe. There's also bonus content on the podcast that's not aired on live stream. So if you want to see what our bonus content is, that is where you can find it. Also, you can share it out with people who are not using social media. Um, I often text to my elders who are not on social media, but also listen to the podcast. So it's a great way to share what's happening here to older audiences. So that's another reason why we use the podcast format. So good evening, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Daring Dialogues, and I'm your host tonight, Shantae Charles. Tonight is our Relationship Wednesday segment, and we are reading from the book Why Smart People Hurt. Now, I'm not sure if you all may have seen the news today, but New York, and I think they're probably the first state to really do this, but New York just announced today that they are ending their gifted program in specific schools. From my understanding, the article I read today, they're actually going to send students back to their regular school districts and still offer the gifted programs, but no longer will they be pulling students out of schools and sending them to specific schools for gifted programs. So the announcement, I think, probably came as a shock to a lot of people. Um, but I'm not really that shocked because they're trying to kind of balance the scales and get rid of the elitist way that the gifted programs have been run. The article gave some statistics about how many students that were in the gifted programs that were mainly white and Asian versus other students of other demographics. So I know that that probably played a part in it. But as we've said here before, people often look at the term neurodivergent or special education, right? We tend to just focus on the other end of the spectrum, which would be um, learning differences, it would be autism, it would be ADD, right? But the other end of that neurodivergent spectrum is the gifted and the genius. So it is a spectrum when it comes to learning. And I did a whole segment on it last year about um, the whole public school and how it's for normative education. And the people on the opposite ends often kind of get left out of the larger picture because public school is really designed for the norm. It's really not designed for the gifted. Neither is it really designed for or to meet the full needs of someone who is maybe autistic or ADHD or ADD. So the reason why we're covering this particular book is because oftentimes people think that just because you are smarter than the average bear, that you have everything together, right? Oftentimes people look at those who are gifted or those who are highly intelligent and they sort of kind of just say, oh, they got it, or oh, they'll figure it out. But just because a person is smart in one area doesn't mean that they have it together in all areas, right? So I really appreciate this book because it is talking about challenges and coping strategies to make a meaningful life for highly intelligent, gifted, creative, bright, sensitive people. So, that being said, I believe we are in chapter 1, Smartness Disparaged. So that's where we're going to begin our reading tonight, and I'm going to read probably for about 15 minutes. I do not have a client tonight, so we can go a little bit past 7 o'clock. But I have been having evening clients, so that's why I've been trying to make sure that we end a little bit earlier. But we do have some time tonight, so I will stop reading around 6:20ish, and then we'll open it up for conversation. Again, thank you for tuning in and sharing this broadcast as we begin chapter 1. Smartness disparaged. Countless infants are born into a social class, ethnic group, religious group, family of origin, or other set of circumstances or environmental factors in which their native intelligence either counts for little or is held as a negative. Only a few theories of personality, primarily those influenced by Marxist economic ideas, have taken into account the challenges to personality development and expression created by these environmental circumstances. Yet, that disparagement and negativity are hugely significant. If you have a good brain and the world you grow up in demands that you shut it down, you are bound to suffer. Imagine the following sort of day in the life of a young girl with lots of native intelligence. Her household is in chaos, the kind of chaos that poverty, acrimony, addictions, and unfulfilled lives produce. Surrounded by threats, impulsivity, zero tolerance for free thought, she somehow manages to get to school and into yet another anti thinking environment. At school, more chaos prevails, and despite the idea that schools advocate for thinking, she is confronted with a shrink wrapped, fact based, topic based, and test driven curriculum that no adult with the freedom to leave would tolerate for an instant. Um, when it said at school more chaos prevails, I want you to just think about the last 2 weeks here in the United States with schools, student shootings, stabbings, etc. You can just type in school shootings and you'll get all of the articles from several different states. It's not just one state where these shootings and violence are happening that's shutting down schools. So if you're a person that has a passion for learning, has a desire for learning, and every time you go to school, there's some kind of drama going on in your classes where you're having to leave, where you cannot think, where you cannot ask the teacher questions, where there's an alarm of some kind and the day is disrupted, that can be highly frustrating for a highly intelligent person. After school, she goes off to maybe parochial instruction and gets a narrow religious education. Yes, some students leave school, and if they're Jewish, they might be going to that instruction directly after school. They may be going to Torah teaching. And that religious education demands obedience, allegiance, and you must think this way, right? Her evening might involve more chaos, and to escape it, she might shut her door. If she is lucky enough to have a room and a door, and find some stress relief and self soothing by maybe watching hours of ready made, low level television programming that further numbs her down. Finally, she goes to sleep only to awaken to another day just like the last one. What will happen to her brain potential in these circumstances? We can imagine. Likely, the best that she can do is bury herself in her books and become a good student, a grade seeker, a dreamer, or a mini expert in some niche area of thought like spelling or puzzle solving, all of which is a far cry from becoming a deep, free, satisfied thinker she might have become in other circumstances. That's probably a best case scenario. More likely, she will not think much, even though she has the ability to think. And when confronted by tasks that require her to think, she may find herself too anxious, too unprepared to meet the rigors of thinking. Now, I get a chance to work with students every single week from all across the country. And probably the two most important, or the two primary things that I find that parents are seeking me out for, is number one, their child cannot organize on their own. And number two, their child is dealing with unusual levels of anxiety, which is affecting their ability to think and learn and process and retain information so that they can do well in classes. This is a problem. We have an anxiety filled society, and it is directly affecting children, whether we know it or not. In this scenario, as a result of this child being too anxious or too unprepared to meet the rigors of thinking, she will fail, maybe disappoint herself, dream small, and maybe even begin to form an identity that includes huge doubts about whether or not she is smart as she thought she was. This child is bound to grow up possibly sad, maybe start acting out, maybe start self sabotaging, and showing the symptoms of one mental disorder or another, from childhood depression to attention deficit disorder to obsessive compulsive disorder. We may try to see her gain some control over her life through maybe an eating disorder. We might see her run away. We might see her get pregnant early. We might see her marry early. We might see her try college and drop out. And throughout these years, a student who has been suppressed and suppressed and suppressed and suppressed might begin to develop a love-hate relationship with thinking, at once craving it, at once avoiding it. A child really can't meet these challenges themselves. No 6-year-old or 9-year-old or 11-year-old can change the situation for themselves, even if in a corner of their awareness they know something is seriously wrong, even if they recognize there is a better way just out of their reach, even if they try to ignore their environment and entertain dreams and goals of their future. No child can meet these challenges by themselves. These negative outcomes are lamentable, but they are also natural. They are exactly what you would expect to see if at every turn you prevented a child from thinking freely and deeply. These are natural outcomes of preventing people from thinking freely and deeply. If you put a good brain in a brain unfriendly environment, it should not surprise you to see that brain get sad, also known as chronic depression. Respond impulsively or carelessly rather than thoughtfully. Doubt its abilities and options, and then go on to choose a station in life that is below the one that otherwise might have been. Let's follow this child and give them a new lease on life. Say when they are 27, they have had the chance to survive the consequences of these environmental challenges, their own spotty past. They come into contact with a mental health therapist. They come into contact with psychology like natural psychology that alerts them to the fact that the place that they have arrived is to be expected. The language of natural psychology, with which we talk about original personality, formed personality, and available personality, about meaning investments and opportunities, about the unfortunate but completely normal consequences of environmental challenges, and about the distress relief rather than the diagnosis and treatment of mental orders, can help her think about what has transpired and about what is now required of her if she is to reduce her stress and distress. In the language of natural psychology, she has an original personality that came with a good brain. She came with a desire to think and a propensity to think. A formed personality that has had to deal with the impediments to thinking, put in her way and has had to deal with the impediments relatively unsuccessfully, and considerable available personality that possesses a memory of her original personality and enough awareness of her formed personality to make real significant changes. She can use her available personality to learn how to tolerate the anxiety that she now accompanies with her efforts at thinking. She can seize thinking as a meaning opportunity and make conscious investments in that domain, whether it's a profession she thought was out of her reach or knowledge that she wants to study but didn't dare begin for fear of failing. These are the sorts of efforts and changes that she can commence to make. In addition to learning to deal with the deficits that are part of the form personality based on environment, she can also learn to deal with these factors that have not gone away. If she goes back to spend a day with her family, she might again, as an adult, have to deal with an anti-thinking environment. Anybody been there? Anybody had to go back into an environment where you know people don't want to learn, people don't have a passion for what you have a passion for, but you have to go into that environment. So you learn to have strategies in order to deal. If she has not left her religious institution, she might have to deal with anti thinking even in that environment. How many of you have found yourself in a religious environment where thinking is not allowed? I didn't say doctrine was not allowed. I didn't say historical learning of that institution is not allowed. I said it's an anti thinking environment. And if you present something that goes against what the standard is, people begin to attack you or they shut you down. That's an anti thinking environment. If her friends sneer at her thinking, she might have to deal with them. If she turns on the television to relax, she will have to deal with the anti thinking programming filling every channel. Now, I find this last statement funny because almost every time my husband and I sit down to watch a television show, we are often pausing and stopping a show. So even if the show is like 30 minutes long, it might take us an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get through it because we're stopping it, we're observing, we're analyzing, we're having a conversation about the programming. That's what thinking people do. And God forbid, we go to the movie theater. Because there is a strong possibility that we're going to come out of that movie with some notes. So just know that about us. That's probably why we don't invite people to go to the movies with us, because we know what we came to do. And so we're never going to be the kind of people that say it's just a movie. We're never going to be the kind of people that say it's just a show. We're never going to be the kind of people that say it's just entertainment. Yes, there are two different kinds of people in the world. There are people who say it's just entertainment, and then there are the rest of us who are always paying attention to some of the messaging behind the message. Someone, I think it was yesterday, they posted online, one of my friends, and they said, it's almost as if some of these things that they're showing us in pictures are planned out and intentional. And I laughed to myself and I responded, I said, that's because it is. I have friends in Hollywood. I know actors in Hollywood and directors. And so a part of what they do is called focus groups. They actually have groups of people that meet together and discuss a movie. They have groups where they show the film to like a test group of people to get input on it. And sometimes that input leads to writing certain themes in. Sometimes it leads to pulling certain ideas and themes out. They call it Hollywood stereotypes, or sometimes people call it formulaic writing. So yes, there's a reason why you see a character from the LGBTQIA community in most films now. It is intentional, all right? But if you're not in those worlds, you don't understand the intentionality of everything that you see that comes through your screen. It's not just entertainment. Back to the reading here. It is natural and predictable that our environment may pressure us to not think. The pressure will produce pain as we intuit that we are missing out on a native opportunity and will negatively affect our personality, producing everything from math anxiety to depression. If you were born to think and you got pushed off the path of thinking, then one of your chief jobs, if you want to experience less distress, will be making use of your available personality to craft a new, friendlier relationship with your brain. A child who grows up in an environment that disparages thinking, that actively works to shut it down at every turn, and that begins to track that child and tell them what they are good for and also what is beyond their reach, will then find himself or herself in the jaws of society's work machinery. They will become the worker bee if they don't find their way back to free thinking and learning. He will be fit for one sort of job and not another. He will be aimed into one social class and not another. He or she will find themselves with limited, disappointing options. Here is how Jonathan in England explained it. He said, I don't know how it works in other countries, but where I live, there is a life tracking effect in place where if you happen to somehow be put on the wrong track as regards to your intelligence, it can be a nightmare trying to put it straight later in life. Think about that. One of my fellow Mensons complained that she encountered resistance from potential employers because she had been forced to take CSE exams at school instead of the more prestigious exams, even though she had later gone on to acquire her proper professional certifications necessary for her chosen career. It simply cannot be left up to a young school dropout who has been mistracked and educationally disserviced and who has been let loose on the world of industry to now suddenly redevelop the self esteem that has been robbed from them, to expect them to solve their finances so that they can go to college and make it through a degree program as if everything had been all fine and dandy. Listen to this, and I'm going to stop reading here. It can take years to recover from such a mauling. Even when the emotional and personal side of things have been resolved about your learning, there is still the matter of maybe not having the degree that you needed or the schooling that you needed. There's the matter of not having the proper career. Unfortunately, industry and academia both act as if the highest level of educational attainment that was available to a person when young represents the maximum worth of their mind. That's kind of tough when it wasn't your fault that you were put on the wrong track based on your intelligence, or rather, not based on your actual intelligent capacity. There needs to be more help for adults in such situations, perhaps fast tracking apprenticeship programs so that they can get into the suitable career. Many of us in this situation actually read and study a great deal independently, so we don't want to sit through classes just for certification. The unresolved situation in my case is a lack of suitable career that taps into my interests and aptitudes. I am getting older and remain a highly gifted autodidact, unsuccessfully searching for a job in the neurosciences. A smart person has a desire to think, a need to think, and an ability to think. But the nature of family, school, and work, the structure of society, and the proclivities of people around them often conspire to put out their intellectual fire. Their family is unlikely to inspire them or flame their desire to think. School is unlikely to do it. Their job is unlikely to do it. Their religious leader may be unlikely to do it. Mass entertainment and other relaxations are unlikely to do it. The uninteresting conversations around them are unlikely to inspire. They can't help but recognize the headline truth about their environment: little thinking allowed here. Yet, they may be surprised to learn just how deep this apathy or antipathy runs. In fact, in most societies, thought is not just disparaged. The thinking person is targeted as an enemy of the people. They are mocked as elitist, their progressive views are hated, and if they live in a society run by tyrants, they will be silenced and possibly imprisoned or even murdered. I'm going to stop there because that's going to lead into next week. But I know this is pretty heavy, but we need to talk about it. People have been educationally mauled. They have been miseducated, and they have been misplaced as a result of their miseducation. Why smart people hurt? A lot of smart people are hurting because they know that the capability they have on the inside is not being reflected in their everyday life circumstance. Right now, we saw what happened with Dave Chappelle. I don't agree with everything Dave Chappelle said. I don't agree with a lot of his jokes. But what I do know is Dave Chappelle is an intellectual. Dave Chappelle is trying to get people to think in an anti-intellectual society. And that in and of itself will cause people to attack you. How dare you take a medium like comedy and challenge us to think through comedy? A lot of people are mad about it. They are. So let's have the conversation. If you've been listening by Anchor, I want to thank you for your time and attention. We're going to let you go at this point, but I hope that you will pick up the book, Why Smart People Hurt by Eric Meisel. Until next time, take care and God bless. All right, I think I've added both of you in.
This is a lot to consider. And I think about my own self going to school and just the different things and the path and having guidance counselors to redirect you and put you on another track. And then you end up, well, this is where I started. And I was doing an internship with the hopes of getting to this path. But then you got deterred. This book, I don't know where you go find this information, but God bless you and thank you for your research and finding such great material. Because when you think about this, and you go back and even think about public schools, growing up in public schools in New York, they were not designed for us, period. And you struggle. And I'm going to tell you my story. When I struggled, they took me out of one class and grouped us with a whole group of girls and put us on another track and said, we were like special need in junior high school. They took me out of a regular class. I had some issues, but that particular issue of behavior made them move me from one place. And all I was asking for was HELP.
Yeah.
Help. So when I was reading this and listening to you read this, and I was like, oh my God, because that is that thing that sets you up kills your confidence.
Yeah.
Make you feel inadequate and that you don't have the ability to do this. This is so powerful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I do parent consults, and one of the things that I try to stress with parents all the time, especially when their children are between the ages of 2 to 5, and I say you really want to be thinking about what kind of educational decisions and choices you're going to make for your child. At that age, you need to be observing them, and you need to be seeing, is my child going to be successful in normative education, or am I seeing some traits of giftedness or some traits of neurodiversity in my child to where they're going to need more than public school can provide them? You have to understand, public school is for the normative child, meaning that if your child in any way, whether it's on the genius side or on the special needs side, if they are in any way going to need extra attention, individual attention devoted to them, they may not get that in a public school setting. So you have to be paying attention, and by 5 years old, you need to be making that decision. Am I going to homeschool my child? Am I going to put my child in a virtual academy? Am I going to put my child in a private academy that has a smaller teacher to student ratio so my child is getting more specialized attention? Or am I going to go the public school route? And I try to lay it out for parents as plainly as I can. And, you know, I've had a couple of parents come back to me now that their children have gone through elementary school and middle school. And they were like, you know what? Everything you warned me about in our consultation, I've had to endure it. I've had to fight it. I've had to join the PTO. I've had to write letters. I've had to, you know, petition for different things. I've had to appeal certain decisions about classes that my children were put in. And they were like, you told me, you warned me that this was going to be a fight every single year. And they're like, now I get it. And I'm like, yeah, I tried to tell you that this is a really important decision. And like you said, guidance counselors play a large part of that. I consistently try to encourage people, talk to the guidance counselor, develop a relationship with the guidance counselors at each school that your child attends. Get the curriculum, the official curriculum book from the school. The guidance counselor has it. That's how they set the schedules for the students. It tells them the courses, how many credits, what those credits can be applied for. If it's like middle to high school, there are certain classes your child can take in middle school to get partial high school credit for. There are certain classes your children can take in high school to get partial college credit for. But a guidance counselor, unfortunately, if you don't ask, they're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Because they have a generalized schedule that they're trying to fit and fill every child in. One school I worked at, they literally assign students elective courses just like A to Z. So one teacher may get all the children whose last names start A to C. Doesn't mean that they're interested in the subject. They just alphabetical order, just slap them in a class. That's what I mean by you really need to be having conversations with these guidance counselors about how they are choosing these subjects for your child. You don't need to miss deadlines, because certain schools have deadlines about your child picking their electives. So if they're interested, for example, if they're interested in music and you miss that deadline to pick electives, they will put your child in art. And if your child hates art, then guess what? It's going to be a long year.
Yeah, that's a struggle. So that you're not interested in.
Yeah. Pastor Ben?
Yes. I want to speak on. You were talking about children making decisions, learning how to make decisions and how to focus and because many of you all on here know that I've told you about my process with my children.
Mm-hmm.
At a young age, I would give them choices to make, but no matter what choice they made was a good decision because it wasn't a negative and a positive.
Right.
I gave them choices to make. Now, as they got older, they had an understanding of what was a good choice and what was a bad choice. As they got older and they developed, they knew how to make decisions.
Right.
But somehow, now their mother didn't like it, but you know, but somehow we think that children can't make decisions. They can make sound decisions if you train them to.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Train them to make sound decisions.
Yeah.
Start off by giving them two good decisions, two good options.
Yep.
Start off like that. You know, and no matter what decision they make, when you give them two options, it's going to turn out good.
Mm-hmm.
One may be a little better than the other, but it turns out good. So we have to we can't just push children in a corner and expect for them to know how to do things when it's time to do it.
Right.
And we can't just push them off on a teacher and expect for the teacher to teach them everything.
Listen, that brings up another point. The other thing that I'm finding out, especially as a independent contractor for tutoring, when I get a client, a prospective client, and I say, what are your child's needs? I'm getting 2 to 3 pages of things that have nothing to do with tutoring.
Oh.
Yeah. To your point, Pastor Ben, as a parent, it is your job to raise your child. Because I'm reading through the descriptions, and this is why I decline a lot of clients every single week. I'm reading through the descriptions of what you're asking for, and what you need is a nanny. You don't need a tutor. You need a nanny. This is the wrong service. I'm not a nanny. I'm a tutor. I'm not a nanny. I'm an independent instructor. I'm not a nanny. I'm an academic coach.
Yes.
And so you, as parents, it's like, oh, I want to hire you. I want to hire you to tutor my child. But then when you read what they need from you, you recognize they want you to raise their child.
Oh.
I want you to go to their meetings with their teachers. I want you to email their teachers. I want you to, what's another one I saw? I want you to check and make sure that they've turned in all their homework.
The child, you?
No. We're not doing that. I want you to, what was another one? It was something else, but the point of what I'm saying is those are parental responsibilities. As an academic coach, my job is to give you the tools for success. My job is to go over the principles of whatever it is that you're learning, your English, your writing, your math, right? My job is to prep you, not give you all the answers, because you're still not learning if I give you all of the answers. I've got to teach you to think for yourself. I've got to teach you to problem solve, right? I've got to teach you how to find the answer for yourself. That's what a tutor and academic coach does. We don't give you the answers.
Right.
We teach you the principles and we train you how to find the answers for yourself. And so what I'm finding out is even parents don't seem to understand
what a tutor is.
The difference between teacher responsibility and their responsibility as a parent. As a parent, you are supposed to be checking your child's work. You are supposed to be making sure that your child turns their work in on time. You are supposed to be sitting in your parent-teacher conference meetings.
Exactly.
That's what
It
you're supposed to
really
be
can.
doing as a parent,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
legally, unless the tutor is signed as a guardian, the tutor can't make those decisions with the school.
No.
Right. Right.
So those are the
I,
things. Those are the things that I'm finding out.
my granddaughter in Africa, Bangwe, and her mom, I'm basically at this point, because her mom has been so surprised and shocked at the level of intelligence in this young lady, which I told her about. She's 12 now. She was like about 4.5 when I told her, because I saw it in her. You know, when I first spoke to her on the phone, I told her mom, I said, this girl is very intelligent and she's very anointed. See, her mom was lagging behind, you know, in understanding what was going on with her. So it's like now, whenever anything's going on, I'm the one that deals with it because I know where she's at. And I had to tell her mom, because her mom would say, well, she should do this. I say, no. I say, don't put limits on her. She will make sound decisions. She will take responsibility, a lot of responsibility for the younger child off you. And this is exactly what she did. You know, that's her mindset. Her mindset is family. Her mindset is doing what's right. Her mindset is, hey, I got to get my homework and stuff done. This girl, because of her sinus and some other illnesses, she missed a few months of school. They did a what do you want to call the test? They did basically a test to see where she was, you know, with her work and everything. This girl aced it. Wasn't even in the school, but she aced it. Why? Because she knows how to keep up with what she needs to keep up with. When they were opening schools back up in South Africa, her mom was trying to decide, well, should I send her back or shouldn't I? I say, don't make that decision. Let her make it. I told her, I said, I already know what she's going to decide, and I know why she's going to decide. So she said, what do you think she's going to say? She's going to say she'll rather stay home and do it on the computer because she don't want to contract COVID and bring it home to you and your sister. I said, that's what she's going to say, right? I said, we'll have a meeting with her. I'll be there on the phone with you. We'll talk to her. And I asked her, I said, what do you want to do in this situation? You want to go back to school? You want to stay home or what? She said, I want to stay home, do my classes online. And I asked her why. And when she said why, her mom just couldn't do nothing but just laugh. The exact same thing that I told her. This is how well I know her, and I know her decision making, her level of responsibility.
Understanding that responsibility.
Yes. Right. That's her level. So why? She was taught these things.
Yeah.
So she had the desire. Why? Because she was being taught. She had a desire to help. So, and I let her know, anytime she wants to help, let her help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that builds a sense of responsibility and a willingness to do right things and to help out.
Yeah. It's a really important thing in this hour that parents are really taking time to listen to their children.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because right now we have a country that's not listening to children.
Oh, right. That is so true.
They're not listening. Yeah. The majority, I can only speak for my state, but the majority of students in my state wanted to continue their education online.
Yeah. Just disregard. They little people. They don't have no choice. That's sad.
But because of bureaucracy and people's love of money, they sent children back into an environment that they knew was unsafe for them. 12 and under especially. And so now, and again, this is something I say, if you're good at what you do, people will find you.
Exactly.
Yesterday, I got a call from a grandparent, Pastor Ben. Yesterday, I got a call from a grandparent that wanted me to, they want me to tutor their 3-year-old. 3. Now I've done preschool before, but they want me to tutor their 3-year-old and their 2nd grader. And as I was having the conversation with the grandparent, she asked the question, do you tutor high school? And I said, yes, I do. I tutor K through 12 generally. This would be a special condition, right? Because it's a 3-year-old. And they said, I just want to know because I want to contract you to teach them through high school into college.
Oh, that's great. Wow. Yes.
So you have somebody that is seeking tutoring and private one-on-one teaching, and they're not just thinking about the next 6 months. They're not just thinking about the next year. They're thinking about who is qualified that I can set my children up for success for the entire 10 to 12 years. And let me say this, they were not Black. Because what I get, and I'm gonna be honest, what I get from us, the first question I get is, how much?
And my child ain't worth that much.
See? So all I'm saying is, we as a people have to learn to play the long game with our children's education, because everybody else is playing the long game. And some of these people have decided, we don't care what color you are, as long as you're qualified and you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We want to contract with you.
Yeah.
And let me put this caveat in there. They said, do you teach Black history? Because I want my child to know the truth.
See?
Okay.
See?
So again, I got white parents calling me saying, let's contract for 10 years.
Yes.
Let's make sure that my child is actually taught the truth about Black history by somebody who's Black.
Amen. Amen.
Then on the other side of that, I have people saying, why I have to pay this?
Lord, help us. Help us, Lord, have mercy. Help us. Help us. Because we want to take all that money, put it on our back, but put nothing up here.
Right, exactly. Why do you have to take that money and buy on some and pay on some big name clothes, or get a high price purse, or get your hair done every week? Isn't your child's future worth more than that?
And you know what? And you know what Grandma said? Grandma said the same thing we said a couple of weeks ago. Grandma said, well, since we got this child tax credit,
we're going to spend it.
We might as well put it to good use.
Use
education.
I said to myself, wow. I just had to sit back for a moment, because I haven't had a parent think in terms of a decade for education in a while. I had some parents where I work with their children from middle school to high school, but it's been a while. Most parents contract for a year, 6 months to a year, but that really encouraged me. So,
and there's more to come for that's thinking like that. And you know what that is? I'm sorry, but
no,
the consistency with that. Work with this one tutor until You get ready. So you get comfortable and you can work with them. You get to know that person. You get to know that child and their needs, and the person gets to know you. And I think instead of just jumping all around, maybe, we'll go here for a little while and go here. I think that is so. It's something there that's a comfort zone there when you can work with somebody long term like that who's going to help you with your future.
Yeah.
Because this woman is thinking future. This is my next generation, and I want this child to be prepared.
Yeah.
And so whatever that is, we're going to get it done. And Lord help us if all these black babies running around here, if we could just get that up in the pen. Because I'm just going, I see these little boys, they dress from sneakers, everything match.
Listen, I'm going to post a picture when I get off of here because I had to stop and sneak a picture. There, when I went on my lunch break today, when I went to go get some coffee. Now, and again, I want to say a caveat here. I'm not knocking Black joy, right? We are in hard times. People need a break. I get it.
Amen.
But I go into the Starbucks, and on the couch there are probably two gentlemen, maybe in their maybe late teens, early 20s, and they had a whole game set up in Starbucks, screen and all, remote controls and all, having a whole gaming battle. Now I do know, that's all I saw. I don't know if they get paid to game, because that's possible.
Yeah.
But what I thought to myself was, man, in the 1920s, 1930s, can you imagine if they had the kind of Starbucksy environment back then in the Harlem Renaissance times? When artists and scholars were actually getting together and they were using the coffee shop environment to converse and to think and to dream new dreams for Black people and to go do something about it and to go create.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, I just need a break from society, let me go here and get some coffee, but it was actual them coming together, the cross-pollination of ideas, poets and musicians and actors and singers and writers and journalists and judges. They were all mixing together, and they had an agenda, which was Black excellence, Black uplifting, Black empowerment. And I said, I hope we get back to that as a people, that it would not just be pockets of that, but that it would become a national, international thing.
Yes.
And so when you said that, it immediately brought me back to the moment today. And I snapped the picture because I'm like, these are two, obviously they have some kind of mind, because it does take us a level of strategy to play games like that.
Yes.
But what if they could take that level of strategy and create something with it that takes them beyond playing the games to creating the games?
Yes.
It just sparked that moment in me, and I was like, I wanted to capture it. So I captured it. I tried to not, show their faces, because it's not about them per se. It's about the greater concept of what could we be doing with our time. Now, somebody would say, well, at least they aren't shooting things up, right? At least they aren't gang banging or selling drugs. And that's true. But I just had a different thought about it. What could you do if you had the time and you had the ability to meet up with people who are like-minded, meet up with people who are thinkers like you? What could you do at that time? What could you create? what problem in the world of Black people could you solve? Let's start there. Because we got a lot of Black problems specific to our community that we need to solve.
Exactly.
No one is coming to save us. No one is coming to solve it for us. It's up to us.
It's true. Ain't nobody coming over and dropping money down on us and say, go ahead, build you a community. It's not happening.
Yeah. They're trying to keep us from getting money.
They ain't dropping none.
Yeah. So yeah, that it just occurred to me. That's all. It's one of those, not a sermon, just a thought moment.
But you know, your mind is optimized way out there, reasoning and thinking way beyond, because you always see way past. That's your mind.
I'm trying. Like I said, last night I was doing some organizing, and the thought just came to me. I was having a thought about civil rights and human rights, and I was like, man, everybody's on this human rights kick. Everybody is on this animal rights kick. And then in the middle of that thought, the thought occurred, in the future, if we're talking about all of this artificial intelligence, in the future, what if robots want their rights?
Oh Lord.
Because I'm like, be careful of this rights conversation, because it is going to evolve again. And sure enough, this article popped up about this robot that gained citizenship that now wants the right to have a family.
Robot baby. Yes.
For those of you all who think that that's outrageous, go type in "robot wants to have a baby." It's a real thing.
But we're not surprised if you're part of the We Dare Squad, and it talks about race after technology and all the different, material that we've been exposed to. I wasn't surprised, because they trying to do. There's so much with this artificial intelligence. They're trying to eliminate people, the workforce. Period.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one thing to eliminate the workforce through automation, right?
Yeah.
It's another thing for that automation to then turn around and tell you we want rights.
We're the robots walking around. They showed the robot they built. You touch the finger, the robot moved back. Because I have a friend who was talking about retiring as an OR nurse in New York. She said, they're getting ready to try to replace us as nurses. I said, I know. I saw that. We had that discussion. Nurses, they talking about restaurant servers. You got robots serving you. How can I take your order? And you're going to be sick.
The Jetsons. Right. The Jetsons.
Yeah.
That's where.
Oh, they got a man. They showed a man the other day out somewhere in Las Vegas. He got a flying car.
Wow. Yeah, the future. And so I was thinking that this was a future thought, but then I read that article today and I said, well, the future is now. The future is here. Now. Final thoughts. Final thoughts for us, Pastor Ben.
I keep saying the same thing. We need to wake up. we need to wake up. We need to get on the level as a group of Black people. We need to get on the level that grandma is on, and understand we need to invest in our children's future.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was really encouraging to me. She is I'm drafting up her contract, and we're going to have our meeting, and she'll be under contract soon. So I'm going to always, if it's me, I'm going to always go to bat for children. I'm going to always tell you they are your future. They are who you will be remembered as based on what you invested in them. Your legacy is never what you do. Your legacy is who you left behind and what you deposited.
Yes.
So if you don't think enough of your children, you won't have a legacy that will remember you.
This is so powerful, Pastor Shante. I hate for it to end.
Well, I thank you all for your time and attention. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues. If you just came in, please make sure you go back and watch the replay. If you're on YouTube, I know it takes probably about an hour for the replay to show up. But I thank you for your time and attention. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So continue to go out and be what, ladies and gents?
Light.
Be light. Thank you all so much. Again, if you're on YouTube, you can find us at Daring Dialogues on Facebook. Also, Black Table Talk, which is our page where we talk all things Black people, Black society, Black issues, the things that are important to us. Take care and have a wonderful night.
You too.